Have you ever heard of something called netbooks? Well, if you don't follow tech trends, or you simply weren't alive for the time of its popularity and eventual downfall in around 2012, it's basically Chromebooks that run Windows. Yes, underpowered laptops running the Windows operating system. They also come in small form factors, usually ranging from about 10 to 12 inches in size. Um, Many manufacturers such as Acer, HP, Lenovo, and Dell made various netbook models featuring Intel's low-powered Atom CPUs or the nicer netbooks using AMD's APU model, where AMD integrates both the CPU and the GPU into a single die. This model is still being used by AMD today under different names, and the idea of unifying the CPU and the GPU is still popularized today by Apple by moving to their own silicon in Mac computers, which features similar concept of merging the two and even RAM. With that introduction out of the way, I will now be discussing a little bit more about the machine that I'll be reviewing. So this netbook is one of the nicer ones in my terminology, as some of these Acer Aspire ones feature AMD's APU architecture. The unit I have today specifically features the dual-core AMD C60 processor paired with the AMD Radeon HD 6290 graphics. The model, however, doesn't feature Bluetooth, which can be mitigated by adding an adapter to one of the three USB ports. I purchased this netbook for 80 Canadian dollars with the seller advertising on the listing that he upgraded the components of this laptop to 4 gigabytes of RAM and a 120 gigabyte Corsair SSD. And instead of installing Microsoft Windows, he opted to install the Cloud-Ready operating system, which, if you didn't know, is a Linux-based operating system that was acquired by Google, which therefore promptly rebranded the OS to Chrome OS Flex. Me being me, I much preferred installing Windows 7 as I wanted a Windows 7 laptop for mostly nostalgic reasons and also have it as a distraction-free typewriter, though we can look at installing Chrome OS and even other versions of Windows for another time. Getting into the unboxing, you are greeted with a nicely designed box for a laptop, with images of the device featured, and the box also showcases the three available colors being red, blue, and my unit being the black one. On both ends of the box, it shows you various serial numbers, and on the other side, it states what features and components this laptop has out of the box. So the box basically opens like a pizza box, no other way to describe it. After opening, usually you would be greeted with an airplane safety card styled instruction manual telling you how to unbox your netbook and connect it to the internet. It also tells you about the fact that this netbook has no recovery media included and that you would need to use a built-in utility in the operating system to do a system restore. More on this later. After lifting up this layer of cardboard, you'll be greeted with the netbook in a protective sleeve. Underneath the netbook, you will find the battery in a plastic bag, the charging cable, and a manual that tells you about insurance if you damage your Acer Aspire One while traveling. And I intend to keep it sealed, and a scanned copy is available on the internet if you want to see what's inside the pamphlet. So now, all we need to do is attach the battery to the netbook, open it up, and remove this sheet of protective paper, and voila, it's ready to go. And assuming the battery has been charged, of course. Off camera, I formatted the Cloud-Ready install and installed Windows 7 Home Premium to save time. Honestly, there is nothing really exciting about the process. Just a couple clicks and you're already on your way to installing the OS. I also want to note that this is a brand new default install of Windows 7 Home Premium, as Acer expected you to use the e-recovery utility built into their OEM installation, as they do not bundle a recovery disk in the box. Seeing the Acer OEM install on a different Aspire One, it was filled with bloatware. Acer even tells you what will be greeting you after setting up your machine. So just looking at that, I would rather not want to deal with a bloated mess on first boot. So fresh Windows install it is. Yes, very boring, but it will get the job done. The only real disadvantage of not installing the OEM provided version of Windows is that some drivers, such as for graphics, aren't installed by default. This can easily be solved, such as using a reliable tool such as Snappy Driver Install. Although these driver installer programs are a bit of a touchy topic in the Windows community, this has worked exceptionally well for me, and if I were to need to get a specific driver that Snappy doesn't have, the internet is always there to help. So now looking at the specs, this machine comes with a 1 GHz AMD C60 APU with Radeon HD 6290 graphics with 4 GB of RAM installed. Looking at the battery reading, it doesn't look good with a reading of 39%. Windows is even warning us about the poor battery health. Although this netbook was given to me with fairly nice upgrades, I wanted to take it a bit further. So I have here a 256GB Light-On SSD from a 2014 Mac Mini and a Corsair RAM stick of an unknown capacity. I also have a battery with a better health reading from a donor Aspire One. So I'm going to be installing Windows in a non-traditional way, and this method is basically copying all the files from the Windows ISO to an SSD without having to go through a setup and booting off a USB. So there are many tools that can help you with this. The tool that I use is Win2USB, which is currently shown on your screen right now, and the process of choosing your ISO and choosing your drive that you want to put Windows on. And it also asks you if you want to put additional drivers. I don't have any, and it does its thing. So usually with an SSD it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. If it's on a USB drive, it will take longer. So the reason why I'm doing this is just to save time, and we can see that the process has finished. So if we look into the drive's contents, we can see that it is indeed a normal Windows install, and all we need to do is just put this drive into the computer and see if it works, of course. Unlike other models of the Aspire One, which for some involves prying out the keyboard and risk breaking the ribbon cable between the keyboard and the laptop, the 722 is significantly easier to open. All it took to open is just removing the battery and unscrewing one screw. Yes, that's it. If only if it were this easy to do today. Sliding the cover out of the way, you already get access to the RAM and storage. Tackling the RAM, I pulled out the existing 4GB stick that is installed and replaced it with the Corsair RAM. Next was the storage, which is a bit of a struggle. The SATA port is actually not integrated to the motherboard. Rather, it is attached via a ribbon cable. Now, removal of the drive was fairly easy. Disconnecting the ribbon cable, unscrewing 2 screws securing the drive, and another 2 screws on both sides of the drive. I also had to remove this piece of foam that is designed to make sure the drive is secured in place. Now the struggle bit that I mentioned earlier is sometimes if the ribbon cable is not plugged in properly, the netbook will refuse to boot and tell you to check the SATA connection. I had to do some fiddling with the cable off camera. Finally, after rewatching the footage of me unplugging the drive and checking with a couple of videos, the laptop finally boots. As I pre-installed Windows on this drive, some processes are slightly different as if you were to do it the traditional way. Windows configures the drivers that it has available from the base ISO, and finally, after many black screens, you are booted into the user account setup. Windows 7 setup is seamless and stress-free. All it asks you is your name, password, product key, time zone, and that's it. No forcing of creating a Microsoft account or categories that you would use your PC the most. The setup wizard does a final reboot, and now we are booted into our user account. Going back to Snappy Driver Installer and getting the drivers needed installed, the system is ready to go. Of course, after a reboot. As I do not want to make this video too long, I have split it into 2 parts. In the next video, I will give my in-depth review of the Acer Aspire One 722 and how it performs in my definitions of real-world use. And we will also see how the system performance improves once we upgrade the RAM to 8GB, as the Corsair RAM I installed happened to be 4GB. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the near future.